Hi, and welcome to another Dex from the Graphic Design School. My name is Leanne, and today we're going to be creating an Asian-inspired poster. I'll be creating a slightly vintage look to the poster by adding texture to the background and also hand painting and hand tinting the image. So we'll use a black and white image and then add the hand tinting, and that adds to the overall vintage look and feel. I'll also be adding texture to the logo. As you can see, the logo here has a hand-printed appearance. So we'll be doing that in Photoshop and giving it a slight texture to make it look like it's actually been stamped onto the poster. So there'll be areas where the ink doesn't take 100%. I've been inspired by these really beautiful Asian postcards. I love the color, I love the texture, and as you can see, the image, it is also hand tinted. So it's a black and white image that's been hand tinted. I love this beautiful serene image here in this poster, and this logo over here has got that stamped effect where you can see the ink bleeding slightly. So that's been my inspiration for this. Mine is for a Sunday afternoon music session, so it's quite a laid-back event. I'm going to show you the image that I start with. So that's the image I'm using. So it's a beautiful image by a photographer called Hisu Lee. It's an unsplash image, so it's free to use as long as you credit the photographer. I'll give you a link to this particular image if you want to follow the tutorial using this particular image. It has got beautiful colors already, but I really want to create that hand printed look. So I'm going to begin by changing the mode of this image. So if you go image, mode, we're going to change it to grayscale and just discard that. We're going to bring it back into color in a little bit, and then I'm going to crop my image because I don't need to be hand tinting the whole image for my A3 poster. So I'm just going to crop it so that the central lady in the forefront is sort of centered there. There we go. And then I need a little bit more height. So if I look at my image size, this poster is going to be printed. So I'm going to need it at 300 pixels per inch. If I look at the size of it, I'm just going to look at it in centimeters. It's way too big in centimeters. So I'm just going to bring it down and make the width about 30. I'm going to make my pixels per inch 300. And it has actually brought my image size down, so just go OK. I need to add a little bit more height here so I can fill my A4 format. So I'm going to go back to image, image, canvas size. Just place my anchor at the bottom and make my height about 42. And then I'm going to add a little bit of cloud by using my clone stamp tool. So if I look at my background there, I'm just going to use my clone stamp and add some sky here. I'm going to make my clone stamp a little bit bigger. And just add some cloud. If you're super observant, you would have noticed that I've actually flipped the image in my final poster. So we'll do that in a moment. So adding my clouds, it doesn't really matter if it's a little bit blotchy because I'm going to be adding texture, color. So if it's not 100%, that's fine. The one thing I don't want is any straight lines in it. So make sure that all the cloud is nice and smooth. If I go too close to the edge, you can see I get a bit of a hard edge there. So I'm just going to remove that and just keep adding. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger so I can go a little bit faster. Not so big. It's funny how it just jumps in scale so quickly. There we go. Awesome. So I'm going to flip my image and then we can begin hand tinting. We'll be doing our hand tinting using color fill layers and using layer masks. Great, that'll do. So I'm going to flip my image, rotation, flip canvas horizontal, there we go, so it faces that way. So I have my background, I'll be adding my colors using the the layer fills, and that way I won't distract the actual image over here. So using your quick selection tool over here, I'm I'm just going to go a little bit closer. I'm going to start by selecting the sky. I'm going to make my size a little bit bigger. And just holding down shift, just start painting in the sky. What you will have to do is go in and just hold down your Option Alt. You can see it changes into a minus, and just select areas that I don't want in my background sky. So just the hand. I want my lady to be selected because she is going to sort of disappear into the background a little bit. I'm going to add the rod that she's got in her hand. A little bit of this. I'm going to be isolating the dress colour, so I can just paint around her dress. We can go in and refine this mask. I'm going to allow some of her hair to come into the mask, but maybe not so much, so I'll just paint a little bit out. I can always add a little bit of colour there. You can zoom in, hold down your Alt just to delete, or hold down Shift to add. Make my brush a little bit smaller. Okay, also want to add this little bit of sky here. It's in between her arm and her hat. Great. And then I'm going to go and do a solid colour fill and just select a sort of greeny colour. Oh, I need to change it into a colour. So we're going to change it in CMYK. Don't flatten. Go OK. Let's go back into that. We're going to create a nice green. There we go. That's more like it. And we're going to use a blend mode of overlay. There we go. And then you can double click onto your colour and just change it so it better matches what you have in mind. I might just make it a little bit more desaturated and go OK. You can go into your layer mask and edit it. So here you can see the areas that are black. In my little thumbnail are the areas that I don't need. So as you can see on the top of the hat, I can see the green coming in a little bit. So I can use my paintbrush tool, select black, click on my layer mask, change my brush. I don't need that brush. Just use a normal brush. Take the scale down, and then I can just paint out what I don't need. I think that's pretty good. And as I said, I just want a little bit of colour coming in on her hair. So I'm going to use the white, increase the brush a little bit, and just let some of that green colour come through on her hair. It'll make more sense in a little bit. Increase the brush size, and maybe just take the opacity down a little bit for these softer areas where I want just a little bit of hair colour coming through. There we go. Go back to your background, get your quick selection tool. We're going to work on selecting a dress. So just clicking on the dress, and again just drawing, filling in. Remember, it doesn't need to be 100%. You can go in and edit your layer mask once you have it, but I think that will do. And then we're going to go solid colour fill for that one too. And I think we'll go a purple colour, so close to the original. Go OK. And then blending mode overlay. There you go. And then you can also take the opacity down on that. Double click, play with the colour. A bit more of a red, purple. There we go. And go OK. The next area we're going to select is her skin. So again, getting your quick selection tool, selecting her face, holding down Shift as you paint. It's selected some of the hat there. We can go in and deselect it in a moment. Just do a quick selection and then deselect her hat. So the face and the hat are quite similar in tone, so it's going to be a little bit tricky. So I might just let that make do, and then I can go in and change it. So again, solid colour fill. Skin tones can be tricky, so just select a warmish, yellowish tone. Go okay, normal, overlay. There we go, that's pretty good. I do want it a little bit richer. There we go. And then you can go in and just manipulate your layer mask. Select it. Use the black. So I just want to smooth out this edge a little bit. Just delete some of that. Make sure my opacity is right up. Get my brush down a little bit smaller. And there you go. You can really spend time refining your layer mask. Great. We're gonna, I think that can be a little bit less intense. Cool. And then we're gonna add some color to her hat. So I'm spending a lot of time on her because she is the main feature of my poster. So just painting the hat. Again, it's selected part of the face, so I'm just gonna hold down my Alt and deselect that part. Hold on Shift to add more. Deselect her hair. Add a little bit there. Okay, that'll do, and then I can always change it once I have my layer mask. So I'm going to make that a bit of a brownie color. With my blending mode overlay. And then just go in and I'm going to add a little bit there. And that looks pretty good. So that's the beginnings of my colours. I'm just going to add a little bit of colour to her lips now. So go back to your background. I'm just going to paint on the lips, or we can just start with a quick selection of her lips. There you go. That'll do, and then we'll just add a colour to that. A bit more pinky. Go okay, normal, overlay. And then we can just go in and change that. So I want to add a little bit to edges here. My brush a little bit smaller. And then flip it so I can delete these, the smudged lipstick look, which isn't what we're going for. And you can even soften the edges just a little bit. Great. I think that'll do for what I want to achieve with this poster, but you can spend a lot more time going into the detail, maybe of her necklace, her eyes. You can add some color variations in the sky. So I'm just going to do a save as on this one and just call it colored. There we go. So there we have all our colors. The next layer we're going to be adding to this is creating a little bit of a texture on top of this image. So the way we do this is by importing particular brushes. Now you'll notice there's a link for brushes that you can upload into your presets in Photoshop, and this helps you get a nice texture. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to call this one dark brush. And then I'm going to show you how to upload some brushes. So if I go to my brush tool, you'll notice I have got all these big brushes over here, and the way I got them is by downloading. Go to the link that's in the brief. There are some special brushes that have been created by a designer called Chris Spooner. Download the brushes, you'll get a zip file, expand that file, and inside that folder you'll find a file, an ABR file. Once you have that open, go to Edit, Presets, and Preset Manager. There you can see my brushes. you won't have these brushes if you haven't downloaded them. Select load, and you'll find your document looks like this: Spoon Graphics Subtle Grunge Brushes. Select that, press open, and then it will load it into your presets, which means that when you go to your brushes tool, you'll be able to select one of these brushes. So they're really nice and big. So you can create a texture by selecting one of these and painting onto your image. So I'm going to use a grey to begin with, and then just add some texture that way. So it might be a little bit dark. I can take my opacity down a little bit and then just add, just with a few clicks of the mouse, I can add some texture. So I'm going to do it using a darker brush, and then I'm also going to do it using a lighter brush. I'm going to add another one and call it light brush. So I'm doing it really quickly. You can of course take your time. So I can just add some white even to break up the color, and you can see what a nice effect it gives over the solid areas of color of her dress. So that's how we add texture. So I'm just going to save that one. I'm also going to add a graduation on the bottom of her dress because we want to be able to place type there. So I'm going to add another layer and call that graduation. And I'm just going to use my eyedropper tool to select the green from the background, and then get my gradient tool. And I'm just going to drag a gradient from the bottom of the image. So holding down Shift, click on the bottom and just drag it up to about her chest. There we go. I can pull it a little bit higher maybe. And that'll give me some area to place the type over. I just want to try that again. I don't want it to be too solid. There we go. I think that's it. So I'm going to save that, and then we can get on to the logo. I'm going to be doing the logo separately, so I'm just going to do a save as, and just save that as a JPEG, and go save. And then we're going to go back into Illustrator so I can grab my logo. So here is my logo. I'll also have a stamp that we can use on the poster. So as you can see, it's a beautiful clean vector, and we want to create that vintage texture. So select your logo, or you can create one or use an existing one. Come on, copy, go back into Photoshop, and then come on, new. It should create a clipboard document for me that is the size of my logo as it is. It gives me 12.59 square. I just want a little bit of edge to that so that I can bleed my logo and show a little bit of a rugged edge. We can make that grayscale, make it 300, go create, and then I'm going to paste my logo. Pixels is fine. Perfect. So now we're going to be adding some filters to this. So the best thing to do is to change this logo into a smart object so that we can retain the integrity of the original logo, and we'll just be adding filters to the smart object, so we can always come back to what the logo looked like originally. So with it converted into a smart object, go Filter, Noise, Median. And what Median is going to do is just round the corners a little bit on the edges of the logo, so it gives that slightly bleeding stamp look. So just play with what works with your logo. You can go extreme, but then you lose legibility, so make sure you can still read your type, and go OK. And then we're going to go back to Filter and go to Distort, Distort Ripple, and that ripples the edge. So again, you can have a look at the preview window and see what it does to the edge of the logo. You can explore using a large ripple too. I prefer the medium for this logo that has smaller letters in, and once you get the right effect, just go OK. We're going to add a little bit of texture to this now. So we're going to add a layer mask. So just click on your logo to add a layer mask, and then we're just going to, with our layer mask thumbnail selected, we're going to go back to our brushes, and we can just, I'm going to make it a lighter colour. Actually, it's our layer mask. We can just, there we go. Click on it. You can use some smaller brushes. Make your brush a little bit smaller if you want to get into little details. But I'm going to keep it like that. Now, another technique that is really useful is to create a darker edge on your logo so it looks like the area where the metal of the stamp would be. So I'm going to just take my logo and duplicate that layer. Select your layer mask. We're just going to delete the layer mask. Sorry. Let's go back. Let's duplicate that. With your logo selected, we're just going to take the fill down to 0 and then go to your effects and go to inner glow. So what we want to do here is make sure it's on normal opacity and our fill is black, and then you can see what it's doing here. It's just adding a hard line to the center and go OK. I want to delete this layer mask. There we go. And then we get the hard edge. So you can see if I click it on and off, it's very subtle, and I can double click on the inner glow and just make it a little bit bigger if I like. There we go. Or smaller. And go OK. So there's our logo. I'm going to save that as logo, texture, and go save. And when I save it out, I don't want the background, so I'm going to delete that background layer. Go yes. Do another save. And then I'm going to merge these layers to create the logo I'm going to be placing in Illustrator, and just call that merged. Save. I'm also going to do a similar texture to the stamp and add that to the logo, to the poster, should I say. Select that, copy, go into Photoshop, again create a new document. I'm going to add a little bit more around that, so make it 12 by 12, create, paste it, and then we'll do a similar thing that we just did, but to this logo. So we'll go noise, median, a bit more extreme on this one, so we're going to really pull it right back and go OK. And then again, we want to convert that to a smart object too. Okay, and we can add the median again, filter, distort, ripple. So you can see it's a bit more extreme on this one because it's a little bit more delicate, so you can go a little bit more less extreme on the ripple. Go OK. I'm going to be pasting this onto my poster artwork, so I'm just going to delete my background and then select all, copy, go back to my poster, and I'm going to paste my stamp there, edit, transform, scale, make it a whole lot bigger. There we go. And then I'm going to make the blending mode color burn, and then drag it down and put it behind the brush, or let's put it in front of the brush, top of the graduation. So the color burn, I can drag it down a little bit so you can explore other color modes. Maybe you want to multiply. I would also transform it and just rotate it a little bit so that it looks a little bit more natural there. drag it down. You can also duplicate the stamp just by holding down Option Alt and dragging it. Sometimes multiple stamps look quite nice. Like that. Edit, transform, rotate, and rotate it a little bit. There you go. So I'm going to save that. I'll just call that stamp 1, stamp 2, and do a save. Do a save as, my JPEG, save, replace it, because now I've added the stamps in, and go OK. We can hop back into Illustrator. I have got a poster with all my types set. So the fonts I've used, Hong Kong Hustle for my header over here. Another Shabby is the font I've used for Presents. And then for the type at the bottom, I've used Bebas New. So I'll give you a link to this font. It's from a designer, and as long as you credit him, you can use the font. I've also added a white border to my artwork. So I'm just going to place my image. Go to Final, Images, and there's my coloured image. I'm going to place it, send it behind. There we go. So it is slightly bigger, that's all right. I'm going to lift my type just a little bit. There we go. There's some space for my logo, and my type reads over here at the bottom. You can maybe extend that graduation just a little bit so the type reads better. And then I'm just going to place my logo, my textured logo. There we go. Make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to center it on this artboard. Align to artboard and just center it and scale it down. Scale it up. Maybe move my Presents down, move my Madame Mo's down. Great. So there you go. There we've created our textured background, a lovely vintage feel, and a hand-painted image. So go ahead, explore using images you have, or you can use the same image I've done, and use a black and white image to hand tint it, and then have a go at creating the stamp texture to a black and white logo or any other artwork you have. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with. Thank you so much. This is all from us at Dex. Goodbye.